Man, hauled that guy right out of those lily pads that I talked about earlier. Look at, he can't even fight. There's an extra 2 or 3 pounds. Tell you what, this net's kind of handy. Those lily pads that we're floating into right there are the ones this guy was holding. It's funny because when I was over there a little earlier, I said I was eyeing these pads because I figured that he'd be there. Now look at how nicely he hit this Lucky Strike weedless spoon. If I can move the, oh, he just shook it out. A little fish like that, 1.25 pounds, just inhale this spoon that's about 3.5 inches long with that nice attractor tail that's on there. So I'm just going to get him back in. I think the reason why the pads that are closer to the channel are more productive is obvious. It's a little bit deeper water. So I got one little pad cluster here. Now that guy came up, he went for it once, and then he followed it and I let the spoon go below the surface so it fluttered slowly and he inhaled it. So you can see the boats, there's another boat putting up and down the channel, but like nobody stops to fish here. So when I used to fish tournaments, we used to come up from Balsam Lake and fish this part of the canal because it would be so productive. So here's the channel. You can see the markers and the 10 km/h zone. We're going through it. Even though it's a channel, it's only about 5 feet deep. When it comes to fishing heavy cover, whether it's trees that are in the water, lily pad beds, or really thick weeds like we were doing earlier, the only way you can penetrate it is by using a Texas rig plastic worm or to use a weedless spoon, and that's what I've got here. This is a really nice selection of Lucky Strike spoons. You can see that they're equipped with weed guards that are made out of metal, but when a fish hits, they depress down so you can hook the fish. But when the weeds hit it, they're just deflected away from the hook. So it's a very simple spoon. I had good action on the silver one today and also on the Fire Tiger, this one here. Okay, you can run them without anything on them if you're fishing them in open water, but I prefer to have some kind of a split tail trailer like this one, the Trigger X that I'm using here, because I find that when I slow the spoon down, when it comes over the vegetation and you let it go inside the little pockets, the little Trigger X really gives it a lot of tantalizing action, and a lot of times the fish that are following will come up and nail it. Big one. Trying to keep, it's coming right at me. Good size bass. Okay, where's my net? Come on, come on. I'm not letting him fight too much because this is what we were looking for today. Okay, does fishing cover work? This guy's, I'm guessing he's got to be 5 pounds. Isn't that a nice largemouth? Now if you come close, I'll show you the jig that I put on here to cast when you're throwing into heavy cover like trees that are in the water. Look at, that's that little tail action. It almost looks like a crawfish. So I don't want to hold this guy to the water too long, but look at the size of his mouth. That's a classic largemouth. That's about a 20-inch fish. Beautiful fish. Look at the big belly. He's happy. Look at his tail. That's like a dog wagging his tail. Okay, we got a nice setting here right in between the cattails. Look at how wide he is. You talk about shoulders. Look at that. He's a slab. He's a slab. See if I can turn him so you can see them. Isn't that gorgeous? Man, that's a thick fish. I can't get my hands around him. And there he goes. Now, since we're here in the shallow water, hopefully I can show you, it hasn't been disturbed, what this jig looks like with that Trigger X material. So I just dropped it in the water. You can see that that tinsel, purple and blue tinsel, really sticks out. Now watch as I jig it, how lifelike this looks. I'm going to put it on this rock that's right here. Okay, so when this hits the water and you just move it real slow, look. Does that look like something alive? I'm going to go from rock to rock. So this is only a 1/4 ounce jig. Okay, so it's not very heavy because I'm not planning on fishing really heavy cover with this, just throwing it around trees and stuff. But it's a combination of this tinsel. They call this living rubber. You can see that the head of this jig is very hydrodynamic. It comes to a point, and I have a loop knot. See that loop? That's so that the jig can go any way it wants once I lift it up and drop it down. And all I've done is put that trailer, this Trigger X material, over the back hook. And the nice thing about these jigs is that they actually have a keeper. There's a piece of wire that runs underneath the hook that goes and actually sticks inside the plastic so a fish can't pull it back. So this is very simple to use. Okay, so technically this would be called a flipping jig if you use it for flipping, but it's a living rubber jig with a trailer. That's the Trigger X material. It's got the pheromone impregnated scent. And all you do is drop it, let it hit the bottom, pull it back. In my case, I saw that fish come out about 3 feet, inhale it. With all my strength with my left hand, because I'm right-handed, I tried to set the hook and I got the hook into it. Now look, that's what good cover looks like, just like that. That's a big old cedar tree that's right in the water. Canadian Sport Fishing is brought to you by Rapala, premium fishing gear crafted from experience. Yamaha Outboards, reliability starts here. Dickies, guaranteed workwear since 1922. Lucky Strike, more fish bite with the Lucky Strike. Oh, all right. So nice to see those largemouth come up and hit those spoons when they're running along the surface. I don't know how well this guy's hooked. I'm gonna try to jump. See if I can get him in the little net here. You know, this is kind of neat. We're fishing the actual main channel that connects Balsam Lake to Mitchell Lake, and we thought for strategy, because on the main body of water on Mitchell Lake it got so windy that we tried fishing some of the lily pads that are off the main channel. There's not a lot of lily pads, and it's actually where these trees are in stumps. It's only about 6 inches deep, but on the other side it's about 2 to 4 feet of water.